Welcome, Yan Tong Ling Ming, dear web class. Healing the lungs, too, is the topic of today. So, the whole week since the last web class, I have been thinking of lungs. I have been building the chi field for lungs further. I have observed more into what else is coming up, and I found out I will never be done teaching lungs health. So I'll just continue wherever we left off. Maybe I say something twice. There's so much that I want to go over, and we'll just see how far we get to. Thank you for a lot of feedback coming this way from you guys. Very positive feedback. A lot of interesting things have happened again. So this is the purpose of these web classes, that you are having inspiration for thought processes, that you use what you hear to expand on your understanding of the topics. For example, now on the lungs health and the involvement in, or what could be involved into lungs health. And so again, I fell a little bit into my old pattern, trying to have some form of plan for the teaching this week, how to get through it, a little bit organized. Last week after the web class, I just want to share this with you so you see, because a lot of people always or often think that, all is always simple and easy. For me, it isn't. So I fell into this pattern last week after the class it was somewhat not cohesive and not easy to follow. And then I looked into this pattern and why I would feel a little bit confused, and then I found out it's just another pattern of perfection or wanting to be good, and of course that has positive aspects and negative aspects. Wanting to be good means that I want to do a good service to you, my students, and to you who need some support for your health, and also to myself to live a purposeful life. But of course, if pressure is coming in, that is the aspect of this pattern that needs to be looked at. And so I've been looking at the material, and I'm totally happy that it wasn't so very organized last week, because it turned out, according to the feedback, that it was quite all right from the quality of teaching. And so I'll just continue like last week. It might be a little bit jumping forward and backwards or going around in circles. But actually, the more I was looking into this pattern of not being very happy with how I taught last week, I found out myself that this is my consciousness, how it works when I teach. And so when I don't teach, my consciousness, when I think about patterns of myself or relations to something, when I have something within my body, chi or mind that I want to improve, heal, make it better, or when I hurt myself, this is what my consciousness does naturally. It looks into all these different angles, and so I found out that that's probably my best aspect that I can share with you guys. Expanding on the view on some topics, going into them, observing or finding, looking for one aspect and then see what is connected to it, and finding a whole lot of positive replacement information for the consciousness instead of the, oh, my lungs hurt, what's going on? Or I've got this and this symptom in my lungs. You can use every body part here. It doesn't matter if it's your shoulder, your heel, or your liver, or whatever it is. We just need to find a way so our thinking processes are involved into the things that are going on inwardly in a positive and healthy way, in a way that follows Tao. And when this comes along with understanding, more clarity about something, there is this little, I call it, these little light bulbs going off in the head, and it's like, I call them my aha moments. I guess the right term for that would be disappeared. I mean, the term is disappeared right now out of my head. Little realizations, little just, right, got it. Okay, so when I have those little aha moments, I get this immediate sense of clarity, and no matter how long that stays, this moment of clarity can stay for a moment only, but it could stay for half an hour. Sometimes it lasts the whole day, and sometimes it lasts for days or even weeks. And the more years with Ren Shui, those moments become longer. And in these moments of clarity, what comes right away with it is an immediate sense of safety. And that is interesting, or it's an interesting point to talk about when we talk about lungs, because of the big theme of protection. What the lungs are organizing, so the lungs are organizing defense via the immune system, defense. So of course, defense, reactive patterns, responsive patterns, those are all the things that the lungs are doing. So we have to think of it this way. Any moment that you spend in a feeling of relaxed, calm, safe, a moment of knowing, a moment of, we could call it wisdom, this sensation, the state of consciousness of feeling safe, clear, well, is always a moment in which you do not use or even waste or deplete lung qi. Again, we're gonna hear much more about that today, how it's never only lung qi, but there is a specific aspect to the lungs. The same aspect actually belongs to the heart. But we'll hear about more of that when I'm ever reach heart. I'll just go along with focus on lungs until I feel I feel satisfied with having explained a lot of aspects. Enough so you and your consciousness has, formed new patterns of thinking around or about your health of lung. And from there on, you can self-autonomously think differently about your lung health. Because that's really the job of me, at least that's what I understand in my job as teaching you Ren Shui, is to just help you think differently. And then you can do it yourself, basically, which is really the most powerful thought processes, and that will also be the most powerful healing processes, because no one heals anybody. Really, you heal yourself the most effective way. Okay, so we're just gonna bumble along like a bumblebee, makes me think of Arne right now because it's his favorite animal. We're just going to bumble along between the informations. And I've drawn you in a little bit closer today because I've played a little bit with the picture. And so I can show you pictures, actually. That's the reason. And it's great because I have some help, because Elaine has come to visit me here in the Caribbean, and so she sat here and I could organize all the adjustments. That was a great help. So, thank you. So let's see. Last week I wanted to show you if you can see something, but you didn't, of course. Now this week, go ahead and have a look at the pictures of the lungs. So I'm going to come closer a little bit even. So if you have closed your eyes, gently open them and just have a look at the picture of the lungs from the front in the body. And then can you see the close relationship to the stomach, the liver, the spleen? So the big thing here in the middle, that's the stomach, that's the spleen, and that's the liver. Right? Those are the small intestines, and what you see coming up here is the ascending intestine, the transversal large intestine. So that's the large intestine, the ascending one going up. The transversing intestine, large intestine, and then when we go into the back, let's see if that functions. Yes, it works. So that's now the lungs from the back. Can you see? And here you have the other part of you see the upcoming intestine, large intestine. You won't see the transversal because it's in the front. There's the kidneys. You still see a little piece of the stomach. And then you see the large intestine coming down to the rectum. You can also see the liver here under the lungs, big liver, yeah? And then that's the stomach, and you just have to imagine the spine down and see how the kidneys are nestled into this whole area, how close they are to the lungs actually. So even anatomically or physiological, there is a lot of closeness going on, a lot of, understandable. Like for me, when I look at this picture, I understand even more how closely our organs are connected to each other, and how, when you now imagine all of these being chi fields, how they interact with one another. You know, you don't even always have to think meridians, right? When we think chi fields, can you imagine? So when this all swims away and becomes a chi field, how the chi field here and the chi field here is just all, and all the different chi fields are just all merging into one and influencing each other, depending of each other, nourishing each other, controlling each other. And now you can go ahead and add more to it. For example, you can add the skeleton to it, your musculoskeletal system. So the shoulder blades would be here, right? Protecting a huge part of the lungs. The ribs would do the rest. They would do it from the front. Yeah, so the rib cage is protecting the lungs in the front, also the liver, gallbladder, stomach. And then from the back there's the ribs, but also the big shoulder blades. Have you ever thought of your shoulder blades? Have you ever thought why there is such a big bone back there and what this seemingly flat bone just sitting there is doing? Now you know. The theme, or, allow your mind to go just free with the theme of defense, protection, reactiveness. If you have problems in your shoulder blades, you might think like that. Yeah? You will hear more about the shoulder blades once we ever reach the small intestine, which is the small organ to the heart. But anyway, can you see, there is no black and white. There is no one organ relates to one aspect of something. But they have a lot of consciousness in them. That's what I like to call it, or we in Ren Shui like to call it consciousness, the Shen aspect. You could call it a psychological aspect, psychosomatic aspect, whatever we want to call it, it's just words. Understanding our Shen consciousness in everything in our life is what we are trying to gain more clarity about. Yeah? So this is the reason why I show you the anatomical picture, right? I just love looking hours and hours at these things, you know. You should really become your own doctor. Don't you love it, how beautiful the body is? So now imagine the spine going down in the center. And the lungs are left and right from it. You know, within the spine there's these nerves. You know, the whole central nervous system is part of the bone marrow. And so that branches out into all the lungs. This is why spine health very much has to do with organ chi and with the health of your organs. Or when you have problems in your spine, you could actually, you know, that is the reason why I'm so vehemently standing on the point to work on chi rather than other aspects. When you have spine problems, why would you go and have a massage? To me, that's just very limiting. And obviously, a few patterns of arrogance are still going around, so I will work on that, promise. I just find it a bit silly to work on the part itself. But that's just me and my arrogance. So expand and just take away limitations. That would be the more closer way of looking at those whole things. I've outed myself a little bit. Okay. So also, have you seen, maybe I show you one more time, have you seen the stomach there? You can see him from the back. So this is the back, right? We're looking at the lungs and the stomach from the back now, because you can see the kidneys. Can you see how close the spine would be right there to the stomach? Yeah? So when you are a lot of nervous, so stomach, spleen, pancreas, right, have to do with nervousness. And here we come to another thing. So let's move away a little bit from the anatomy. I want to show you the picture that I did send you. It's the meridian. So it goes up the arm and then goes internal into the throat, into the lungs, goes down through the diaphragm, into the stomach, into the large intestine, and goes back to the stomach. Stomach is spleen, right? So that would be spleen organ. Spleen, pancreas, stomach are the two out of the metal in 5 elements, as in Chinese medicine. They belong together, and the lungs and the large intestine belong together. But can you see this close relationship to the stomach? Even, as not anatomically only now, but even via the chi channel. We see this, the chi field, it's right under and in, you know, somehow very closely to the lungs from the chi field aspect. But even the chi channel aspect is very interesting. This little loop, or maybe I go a little closer, can you see? The loop going down from the lungs into stomach. And that has a very interesting aspect because what the lungs are doing, they actually are responsible for something very specific and interesting. So we have in Chinese medicine, there's different types of qi. So for example, they call it something the true qi. And what they mean with the true qi is that that's the qi, that's just terms, right? Like we have Dantian qi and we have Yuan qi and things like that. So in Chinese medicine, they have a term. Getting a bit fast. I'm so excited about talking about this. Now that I've freed myself of all the pressured patterns, I just happily sit here, being very happy. So the term they have in Chinese medicine is true Qi, and that's a kind of the Qi that is then flowing. It's transformed from other things. Maybe it becomes more clear with the next aspect. So they also have two other terms. For example, they have the Qi of grain and water, or they call that in short food Qi. Yeah, so Qi that we get from food. And then they have something like pure Qi. And the pure Qi is that Qi that is manufactured or produced out of the breathing Qi. Okay, so you breathe, and of course, like we talked last time, the whole, exchange from gases is happening on the physiological level, but on the Qi level, the air is being transformed into a specific quality or type of Qi, and that's what's called pure Qi. The same with everything you eat and drink is first physical. It's food and water. Yeah, so it's pretty dense Qi. It's physical Qi. It needs to be transformed into finer Qi, so it turns basically non-physical in your body, so your Qi field can use it. And you just need, because that's your fundamental material, right, is Qi. So we are going from whatever we eat, we first make it smaller through the normal digestive process of mouth, saliva, teeth, chewing, gulping, swallowing, bring it down into the stomach. There comes acid into there, and the stomach starts moving and working. Lung Qi always also governs the voice, so my lungs have lots to heal still, and it's interesting. I have it since an hour before starting class even. So that's great. Something is going along here. So what the lungs are doing with first of all, they get pure Qi in, but they're also responsible for transforming. Remember last class I've talked about that aspect of what lung Qi is doing. It's transforming Qi. So it's transforming the food Qi, and the pure Qi, remember? So breathing Qi and food Qi is transformed through the lung Qi, or that's the job of the lung Qi, to transform it into true Qi. So the true Qi is the Qi that flows in the channels. And remember, the lung is governing the overall Qi in the channels. It's so interesting, isn't it, how it's all connected? And so what the lung functions also are in Chinese medicine is it sends the food Qi to the heart to make blood. Isn't that so interesting? Because we think blood is only, the heart responsible is, the heart is responsible for health of blood. And we know, okay, so, blood is stored in the liver, so maybe we have the heart and the liver involved in healthy blood. Who thinks about the lungs? Yeah. So now, from now on, we know, the lungs have a lot to do with health of blood, nourishing the whole body, cell reproduction, transporting things. Here we come back into the immune system, right? In which fluid are actually, viruses or bacteria when the immune system has to deal with them? It flows in blood, right? So can you see how your consciousness can actually go so wild, basically, in looking for diagnosis and maybe never find anything? So that's better why just work on understanding and clarity of how everything is connected and all the relationships between everything. Work on total reality of your health, and then do Yuan Gong and work on your Shen, so it is always in this state of expanded openness and trust and love and gratitude and Gongqing, and we probably end up all pretty healthy. Lang Qi also has another aspect with blood. It controls the blood vessels. You know, I don't like to go too much into negative in the Qi field here, but you know how smokers have issues with the circulation in their legs, and how they look very old after a lot of smoking, and this has to do with the health of the blood vessels, how shiny you are, of course also with skin. So because lung is working on or controlling or nourishing or governing is what they call it in Chinese medicine, governing the skin. So the blood vessels, it maintains the health of the blood vessels. That's Lang Qi, not Heart Qi doing that. So can you see, they're not only physiological, very closely related, but also within their Shen aspect and what they do. It is responsible for circulating blood. Well, it helps the heart to circulate blood. Why is that? Because it is responsible for the overall circulation of the qi in the whole body, in the channels. So that's why it also is, of course, partially responsible for transporting blood and circulating it. Lang Qi is also responsible for descending fluids. That means it's responsible to send qi down to the large intestine. So again, here you would think, okay, digestive qi, or digestive system. That is liver, spleen, pancreas, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, maybe esophagus, maybe teeth, saliva. That's already when most people think quite as expensive, not expensive like cheap. The other thing, expansive, expanded. Sorry, sometimes I'm just not getting the English right in my head. So it's going right. Digestive starts here. But actually, have you heard? Remember, Lang Qi is involved in transforming that qi, and then it also is responsible for making this qi go further down from the stomach. That's Lang Qi doing that, bringing it into the large intestine. So sometimes it's not about you having eaten the right things if you can't go for a good poo. Maybe you've just been too much sad in your life, because sadness is responsible, or is the emotion according to lungs, or going together with lungs, grief and sadness. Crying a lot might upset your digestion. Why? Because Lang Qi is responsible to bring everything down. This is this other aspect that Lang Qi has. A Shen aspect of Lang Qi is to hold and holding things, and a little bit also release, but the small organ to the lungs is the large intestine, and the large intestine, large topic is release, letting go. So when the lungs are responsible for grief and sadness, they're responsible for generating grief and sadness, and so the opposite of that would be allowing us to move on from something, allowing us to process a trauma, even though that's again more stomach spleen work. But this movement of allowing us to move forward and move on is actually the lungs, and then the quality of the large intestine is letting go. I wonder if at this stage we should have a little look at the large intestine meridian for a moment. Let me just look for that. Have a look at this. I hope I hold it really close enough. Let's first look at the outside, the external one. Can you see? So the Lung Chi meridian, the external one, was going on the inside of the arm upwards, can you remember? And the large intestine is going on the upwards side, upwards. And can you see it's going to the shoulder and then along the shoulder blade? And from there it's crossing, it transverses into the body, through the body, and then goes, hold on, I don't know if you can see that. It goes externally forward, hold on, into the throat. Can you see the line with the two dots? And then from there, I don't know if I can make that all steady enough so you can still see. Where's my finger here? It goes in here, coming up around the lips, and from there across to the other face. And always remember, we have, of course, always those meridians we have on both sides. Okay, I'm trying to get a little closer. Can you see that? So sometimes if you have problems around your mouth, it might be large intestine, it might be lung chi. So can you see how this line here, I don't know where my finger is, here it's coming. This line here down through the lungs is actually interrupted. Can you see? It's not, it's an internal branch of the large intestine meridian. Most people don't even, or a lot of people don't even know that there's internal and external branches of the meridians. Can you see how it goes through the lungs? And we have two, right, on both sides. And then can you see how this is going through the large intestine, through the pelvis, the hips, the knees outside, all the way to the lower leg. Okay, and then we have here a little bit of just on the other side of the face. That's where the large intestine goes all the way up externally, besides the nose. Yeah. Well, which sense organ is relating to the lungs? Smell, the sense of smell and smelling, right? So it has to do a lot with the large intestine meridian, why this is like that. Or when we have, a cold, most people go, oh, I've got a cold. We have to train our brain, our thinking, our patterns basically, replace our patterns that actually, if we don't get stuck in the old fears of a few centuries now that a cold is something that might kill you, and connected with, infections and maybe, needing antibiotics and going into death, and how they used to die of colds. Actually, a cold is something to do with something was held in the body, that is lung chi. The lung chi is responsible for the immune system. Now the lung chi is getting a healing aspect happening, and it stops holding whatever is in there. The immune system can go and release it and gives it to the large intestine, and the large intestine can then let it go. So lung chi and large intestine chi help us to move on and let something go. And that's when the stuff is coming out of the nose. It's not mucus in medical language. Yeah? So like this we have focus, that's the fluid that is responsible for, or that relates or corresponds to lung chi. You might have to watch this a few times, and maybe another time you can write with it, or just, today I hope you're just lying there sucking the information in. Draw the Chi information to you. And allow your Shen to go wide and more expanded. And then sometimes you might have to open your eyes and look at the things, but you can do the web class a few times, yeah? So sending the Chi down to the large intestine, descending fluids downwards, yeah? Distribution of fluids, blood to the skin and nourishing the skin we've talked about. Regulating nose and smell provides ability to smell. Yeah, we know that's probably easy to understand. That lung chi, healthy lung chi, has to do with how well we can smell even. Why is that important? Let's see. Is it important to be able to smell smoke if a house is on fire, for example, and you're in it? Or if there's, in this modern world, for example, interesting, no? If there's a lot of very toxic stuff and you might not want to hang out in it completely. Here I want to say, remember, a healthy, relaxed, calm state will be your best for lung chi. I think the Shen, that's what Yanzi teaches us. Let's make it a bit stronger, the information, than just what I think. That's not even important what I think. What we learn from Yanzi is that a healthy state of consciousness is responsible for healthy flowing chi. So I would always put that on top of, as what I'm taking care of is, before I have a panic fit and when I smell toxins and run around in a panic and get all anxious and nervous and have these thoughts of toxins spraying, oh my God, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that. Think about if it might not be better to stay in a very healthy, relaxed state that is very nourishing to your lung chi, and then the lung chi is going to take care of everything that I've talked about today. And the more lung chi you have, the less lung chi you use through a bad state, or a sad state, or a fear state. Why that? We'll get to that, why the fear state is kind of interesting for lung chi. So think of, really, use some time of your week to just lie around in a chi field, relate to it like we've learned in the web class in associating with chi. Turn into this chi person lying in the universe, unify with everything, and then just allow your Shen to be in information for lung chi. And then really think about what's going on. You can do that when you lie in the ocean. That's what I'm currently doing when I'm swimming. You can do it when you sit in the woods, on the mountains, in the desert, in your beautiful garden, in your super chi field, in your bed, the chi field where you practice. Ponder life and lung chi in a very healthy state and how you can strengthen it in every moment. Rather than trying always to organize everything in the external, it might not be possible to not live in a non-toxic world. It might be a financial reason that you can't, afford to move away from a factory, away from an airport, away from a street, away from, I don't know, the neighbor who sprays his plants, even so you have an organic garden, if you have a garden, or you give your flowers organic stuff to feed, but your neighbor has just moved in or has been living there since 20 years, it's interesting to think about all these things. And I include myself here again as well. When I teach, I always see so many more ways of how I could follow the laws of the universe more. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Um, it governs, lung chi governs the voice. So being able to speak with a clear voice has to do a lot with lung chi. This is interesting, isn't it? But it becomes very apparent when we look at the meridian one more time of, have you ever heard Janse? Sorry, that was too quick. I'll bring it back right away, but I just wanted to say, do you know that we are supposed to speak from either lower or middle dantian? Have you ever heard that term? You know, so this is what I'm doing when I'm teaching. At least that's when I already think about it. It's not that simple to think about talking from middle dantian or lower dantian all day long, but that's at least what Janse tells us always, and that's how, Big 120 should be happening. Not only thinking about what we say and when we say something, but also how we say something. Not only from the emotional aspect or the vocal aspect, but also from the chi aspect. Talking from middle dantian. Why? Let's have a look. Look at the meridian that goes there. Where is middle dantian? Yeah, and then it goes up and up and up. See? Okay. You might not be able to completely be there with closed eyes all the time today. As I said, I'm just figuring this out myself as I'm going along. So you can do the class a few times if you like to. Here we come to an interesting aspect of lung chi. On a Shen property, or the quality of what lung chi is organizing, is the sensation of suffocating, because it controls the area of the throat. So here the consciousness can go into a lot of thought processes. Have you ever been maybe drowning, or have you ever been strangled by someone? Have you thought about why this might have happened? Maybe you have had so much sadness in your life that lung chi got so weak that you needed it to be activated. You needed it to be stimulated, and maybe that's why you attracted someone who strangled you. Hopefully not all the way, but otherwise you wouldn't sit there. But things like this. Or why do some people think about suicide, hanging themselves? It's like, we're not going to go there, but too much. But I just want to again give you some ideas of, oh wow, now there's more clarity in why some people do this. Maybe you've had someone in your family and all you can see or feel is that they left you alone, and maybe they just had no way of nourishing their lung chi. Who knows through which traumas they went and why they had to leave world this way they did. Maybe you just often have the feeling of not getting enough air. Asthma, for example. It's easy to relate that to lungs, because in Western medicine, asthma is somewhat a problem with lungs. But we all know by now that when someone who has asthma is more stressed, they have more asthma, right? So, in a way, we all try to just, find more connections, more understanding, more clarity. Here I would like to expand again on the whole suffocating aspect and going into past, present, future, into what we looked at last time in class. Remember the total reality about lung health and where sadness might come from? Maybe, we don't look for those things. We're actually not even interested, but we want to have this information just also in our consciousness for from the aspect of total reality, who knows what your life looked like beforehand. And maybe some of you haven't been a lot of times sad, but now have some lung disease, or some immune system disease, some autoimmune system disease. Who knows? Maybe you've drowned in another lifetime. But it's not important to find that information, it's only important to know that unifying with total reality, working with Chi, is so important, because you get to clear all information that might still be stored in your Chi, in your Shen, in your cells because of that. Popping pills will not help you if the cause for lung problems is something like that. Having constant infections, lung infections, pneumonia, things like that, might not come from any of those aspects. So taking antibiotics on that level will not help you in getting rid of those infections. Maybe it gets rid of the infection, but not if it's a chronic coming again and again and again. There's so many reasons, so we don't have to know the exact information really. We just need to immerse ourselves in Chi fields, practice Yuan Gong, work on our patterns, gain wisdom and understanding, and with time all the sick information will clear. And with it all the chronic diseases, the metastases, the serious life-threatening diseases, everything. And whatever we can't manage in this body, we do for our next body, for our next life, for our next way. So it's great, all in all together actually. We just need to manage to think about these aspects and have the understanding about it. I just feel so blessed to having, met Janse. And also, I learned a lot of traditional Chinese medicine beforehand, and I studied a lot, and mostly I don't study much in just sitting there reading. I read something and then I just daydream in the woods at the ocean about those things. But now that I can do it in a Chi field, and now that Janse has taught me all the importance of openness, of which is interesting because openness has actually it's the movement of opening has a lot to do with lungs, so it fits perfectly in here. So through Janse teaching us about Chi fields and Chi, and teaching us that knowing it only from the books, so helping you know what lung Chi is doing because you studied Chinese medicine or because you know where the meridian runs, it gives you an understanding, but it doesn't give you the knowledge, the wisdom, because that comes through applying Chi, practicing Yuan Gong, working with Chi, experiencing Chi, nourishing Shen of all things and Dantian Chi, and really becoming Chi fields, having this visceral knowing and feeling and of being Chi. This is why, I guess why we all hold Janse in such a big respect. Just he makes it for us possible to go through the processes. He tells us, study, but then apply, become your own, become self-autonomous, live Chi. So, all I have right now is Janse's eyes in front of my consciousness. I'm just not much there, but Janse. Okay, let's see. Lung Chi, what else can we find? It's interesting because there is so much gratitude and love for Janse right now, and I'm wanting to cry, and crying is not good for lungs. So let's move on. um, it fits quite well into here right now, naturally, because of lung chi and because of where I've just ended up. It's an interest aspect. There's a lot of other aspects I actually would have liked to talk about first, but it just naturally happened right now. A very interesting aspect of lung chi is it houses the bodily soul. So in the understanding for us of working with chi fields and with chi, there's different aspects to soul. So you could also call it there's different souls in ourselves. But actually it's just like, remember when we talked about the three aspects when we've learned Sha Yuan? The aspect of the physical aspect of organ chi, the chi aspect of organ chi, and the Shen aspect of organ chi. So like this, there's also different aspects within the soul aspect, Hun Li, Hun Lin actually, sorry. And so I wonder if you hear me all the time. I hope you hear me. My microphone was quite down. My mind is just going, oh please, I hope they have heard all of this. So I didn't speak so much for now, and you can't even hear it. Okay. So there's different aspects, different parts of our soul. We have a corporal soul, we have an ethereal soul. The ethereal soul part we're going to look at because that's liver, that's liver chi is organizing or governing that, and lung chi is governing the corporal soul, our bodily soul. That's interesting because it gives us the ability to feel and move. So let's just look at this a little bit. To me, this was incredible to find out about that. If you allow me to share a little bit about me, you can relate it to yourself. But I used to be a lot of times sad. I have gorgeous parents. I have a blessed life. I had not much of childhood traumas, except maybe physical traumas through being too wild and hurting myself, injuring myself constantly. But I have a very sensitive Shen, and unfortunately, didn't have a mother who could teach me about Chi and about how everything is connected and related, and how Shen can pick up and does pick up on information from everywhere, and so I never knew that a lot of the sadness came from the state of humanity, the state of the planet, the state of overall chaos, until Janse explained it to me. And so all I could feel often about myself was, I'm so often so sad, I must be not functioning well, I must be just silly, or, for people or children or grown-ups who have been children that have had a lot of trauma, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, whatever is not enough food, existence trauma and things like this. I had none of that. And so it just didn't make sense to me. Maybe you're someone like that too, who just had a lot of sadness but never really knew where it came from. So all the wrong concepts around that develop, meaning all the patterns developing around that, for example, feeling like a failure, feeling not good enough, feeling stupid, feeling, not capable. Why is everybody else happy or functioning? Why do I not function? So why can't we move and work as much as others, maybe? you know, it might be that your lung chi is just picking up on so much and has not been able to have the clarity of that it's information that comes in from the external. And so you pick up on sadness from others, or the sad state of some societies, or how people treat each other, or the state of the world, and your chi field is not strong enough. And this is one aspect for me in Ren Shui, that is one of my major aspects. I understand what Yanshe tries to teach me, or teach us all together, is when we work on our chi, when we strengthen our chi field, when we strengthen our Shen, we get so shiny and bright that the incoming negative information, first of all, is being immediately transformed as soon as when this is the boundary of my chi field, the negative information comes in from outside, and it immediately is being transformed in here, in my chi field, so it never reaches me, or it doesn't reach me in as much of a strength. But also, when I am in a really good state, my chi field is very strong and healthy, I am radiating and sending, and I'm transmitting this information into my family, my surrounding, my chi field, but the whole humanity, total reality. Actually, I transmit it into the universe. And you do the same thing, so we all do this. And this is why Janse keeps talking about, we're not healing a symptom or our disease, we're healing our whole life. This is one of my big hopes, that my chi field one day will be so strong that my sensitivity isn't encroaching on me, but that I can use my sensitivity in transmitting health and beauty and love and gratitude outwards. That the chi field is so strong that just wherever I go, it just obliterates negativity. Therefore, I have to manage to obliterate negativity in my head first. But anyway, having received the understanding from Janse that this is what works, and seeing with the years of work and application that this seems to really start happening, it's just so wonderful. And every one of us can do this. It's so amazing. We just have to work together as a total reality. Okay, I moved a little bit away from the bodily soul. Let's come back to the bodily soul. But now maybe it's not a digression really, because now we understand when you feel bad because you can't move a lot, or you don't feel like moving, or there's a lot of rigidity in your body, it may come from all of these aspects. If you are one of the persons, the humans who had to go through a lot of physical, emotional, sexual trauma, things like that, as a child especially, it stays, information is being stored in the chi until it's being released out of the chi. So lung and large intestine chi needs to be healthy and strong, and all the other chi need to be healthy and strong too. We'll look at that now in a bit more related way. But, just keep on doing Yuan Gong, Yuan Ming medicine. Actually, let's just call it Ren Shui. Work on our patterns, We need to free ourselves from victimhood, because let's not forget about cause and effect of why we have come into these traumas. But also we're not gonna need to feel that it's my fault that I have been doing this. Every human has these things, and we all interact, and so we all interact with our patterns, and why you had to go through traumas. You might not have caused it all by yourself, but it might be an aspect. So it doesn't really help altogether to stay within a bad state. It just uses and wastes more chi and damages more chi. So The only way out really is to work on our consciousness patterns, no matter how valid the reason is that we are a victim and that this has happened and this has happened and this has happened. No matter how good an explanation it is, we need to, that's interesting. We're in Lung Chi field and health Lung Chi field, because when you're a victim, what do? You protect a lot. What have we learned? Protection, defense is to a big degree organized by Lung Chi. Or when you have to do too much protection, constantly protecting yourself, you waste or deplete and use a lot of Lung Chi. And that might be reasons for lung disease or symptoms. And it all can be repaired. That's the beautiful thing. I will never forget. I will always remember when Janse told me that once. Just, we can repair everything. Just stay with this. Eventually, sick information will be transformed and released and dispersed. So, again, dispersed is an interesting word coming up in the Lung Chi field, or, allowing the consciousness to go into the word dispersed and looking at the aspect of this word that just came up naturally out of the Chi field or in the Chi field, out of my consciousness, maybe out of your consciousness, or who really knows where all the words and information comes from is. It's within the universe, and we need to learn to work with it. So the lungs open and close with breathing, right? There is a few aspects that happen in that has Lung Chi, and therefore I want to go into the 5 elements system, or in traditional Chinese medicine there is a way of looking at things through the 5 elements. This is, for example, also what Sha Yuan is built upon partially, or it's one aspect of Sha Yuan. So the 5 elements are, I'm just looking for finding this picture for you. The 5 elements, let's start with Lung Chi, is metal. And then we have kidney, water. Wood is liver. Heart is fire. And spleen is earth. So, now, those elements have a lot of different aspects to each of those organs. Because we look at it we're in the series for organ health, so we're always looking at it from the organ aspects. So Lung Chi is the element metal. And there is different properties to all of these aspects, okay? And the aspect of metal is, metal is a whole element and it carries a lot of different properties. But the organ relating to metal is lung, okay? Also, large intestine, by the way. So, yeah, lung and large intestine. The lung is the yin organ, and the smaller, the yang organ actually, so not small, is the large intestine. They're equally important really, but it's just the lung is like, it's stronger Chi aspect. So before I keep talking, I'm going to show you a picture actually. Let's have a look. What you see here is the Shang Circle and the Ke Cycle. So I don't know if I said it right in Chinese. I'm sure Melissa would say that better. I want you to look first at the Shang Cycle. The Shang Cycle means nourishing. And the other cycle means Ke. Ke is controlling. Remember, I did a class once about control and nourishing and why it's both important. So here we get to look at a different aspect. So let's have a look. See metal down here at the bottom. So metal nourishes water. Water nourishes wood. Wood nourishes fire, and fire nourishes earth, and earth nourishes metal. You could say lung chi nourishes kidney chi, kidney chi nourishes liver chi nourishes fire chi, also heart chi. Heart chi nourishes earth, spleen chi, and spleen chi nourishes lung chi. Okay. Now, when lung chi is nourishing kidney chi, can you see how kidney problems might not come because we have too little kidney chi? It might come because we didn't have enough lung chi. We were, for example, and that's just really one example of all the possibilities, there was too much sadness in our life, and therefore kidney chi has become very weak, and that's why we have kidney problems or all the other related problems to kidneys. Reproductive problems, adrenal problems, brain problems. Because that's all what the kidneys govern. We'll learn more about that when we end up at the kidneys eventually. Yeah? So, but it might not be a kidney problem altogether. It might be a lung problem, a lung chi problem, a lung chi deficiency, and or any of these aspects. We could make it even more complex because lung chi is being nourished by something too. So if you have lung problems, you might have a lung problem because the spleen chi is not nourished enough. There's too little spleen chi, and that's why it can't keep nourishing the lung chi. And so actually you could have kidney problems because your spleen chi isn't nourished enough, and so it goes down into the... Can you see? Do you see what I mean? It's just going... When you think about this whole thing, so where does the circle start? Where does it end? That's why we would never end up in only working on one lung. Or when someone tells you, yeah, you have really weak heart chi or very, really weak lung chi, it might come because there is something going on in the liver. So only adjusting one meridian or, it's very complex. Again, this is why I just want to really call you and call your understanding of total reality and that you are a chi field. Take away the limitations. Spend more time on Yuan Gong and working on your patterns would be my advice. I know it's Jance's advice. Rather than on appointments and, spending the time in looking for herbs and finding out herbs and going to whatever acupunctures, or this is just my understanding. You need to do what you need to do, okay? But I would love to help you gain this understanding about safety and less limitations when you work with chi fields and chi with an understanding of total reality, which we do in Ren Shui with Yuan Gong and Yuan Ming medicine and the aspects of working on our consciousness patterns. Lung Chi is also responsible for moistening the tissues, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so the other aspect of the opposite of this is the controlling circle. Let me hold up this for you. Let me see here. So metal is controlling fire, representing lungs are controlling heart. Heart is controlling. I'm sorry. I was just thinking something is really wrong. Could you tell him to shut down? It's just like, it's okay now, they're good. So metal is controlling wood, and fire is controlling metal. Here I got it. Just, looking outwards is making me forget a few of those directions. It's just a bit complicated sometimes. So can you see the arrows? So the lungs are controlling the liver, and the heart is controlling the lungs. The liver is controlling the earth is controlling the water is controlling the heart, and the heart is controlling the metal again, the lungs. Okay. So that's the other one, yeah? Controlling, balancing, harmonizing, keeping in a check. So that's very easy. For example, this relationship is very easy to see when we look at the heart. Yeah? When we have, what happens to, have you got children? What is the, or have you ever observed children? If you don't have children, we don't need to have children to be able to observe the world. There's plenty of them around. Too many, actually. I mean, from the food perspective seen now, I mean, that sounded a bit wrong. Too many children around. You know what I mean? We just, from the population point of view of the planet Earth. So, but there you go, Lang Chi aspect. If you are someone who wants a baby and you can't have a baby for some reason, yet, or it didn't happen yet, or you've lost a baby, or it just doesn't happen for you, maybe this is an aspect going to total reality, and maybe your Lang Chi is just so smart, nourishing your kidney chi in a way that nourishing the whole planet with there's too many humans in the world. I know usually we don't like to think of it in the totality. We like to think, well, if there's too many humans, maybe someone else shouldn't have a baby, but I want one. It's just bad for your Lang Chi to be sad about things. This is how we're trying to work with it. The situation is how the situation is right now. Okay, so now I got a little bit digressed, but that's how consciousness works. If you're flexible, and that's why it's so important that chi is flowing, because then it can go from one aspect to the next, and to the next, and to the next. Yeah? So, where did we leave off? We were in controlling. So, lungs are controlling the liver chi. So we've heard that, where did I was? I was somewhere. I just have lost my thought a bit with going off in this other word. Let's see. When the Lang Chi is not strong, you might have problems with your liver and all the aspects coming with the liver. Yeah, the liver might flop out of balance. And all right, now I remember. So, have you ever? I'm back to the children now. Yay! So, have you ever observed children being in the non-balanced emotion of overjoy? You know, just it's not a calm, peaceful joy. They're just full of adrenaline, and they're screaming and yelling, or they're completely unfocused, and they're just completely, mad with, playing around and totally lost in overjoy. Have you ever observed that an hour later they start crying about something? So they're very like, you know what I mean? This first they are like giggling and laughing and screaming and blah, and suddenly they start crying. So this is how the heart chi has controlled the lung chi. Or you could also say the heart chi was used up, and the heart chi is supposed to nourish the lung chi, and because then there wasn't enough heart chi to keep nourishing the lung chi, the lung didn't have enough chi to work with, and that's why the emotion of sadness was triggered. So this is why it's so important that we teach our children not to hang in overjoy. So when we as a grown-up work with ourselves, and we teach ourselves to be in a good state, then we should give this down to our children and the children's children, that when we do sports, it's very chi depleting, but if you do sports and you're screaming and yelling in big joy and you're extremely excited about it, or you have other emotions while it's even worse, because emotions just use so much more chi than anything else, is what we learned from Yangtze. So if you have to waste your chi through sports instead of moving with Yuan Gong, then at least be in a very good and unified state. So then you can move. And again, remember, lung chi is organizing your physical, your bodily soul. So when you move in a very beautiful and calm state, you can move a lot. And Shen will override the physical aspect. Override, it's like, but you can open and close and pull chi in while you walk or while you swim. Yangtze says running is not so good an idea for chi, and we all know that runners have eventually joint problems and things like this. So lung chi actually governs fluids in the body. Yeah, there's joint fluids that need to be governed. Have you heard that in China, in Chinese medicine, they're saying that we have so and so many breaths for life? When we do sports, what happens? We breathe much faster, right? We know, it's interesting, Elaine and I just talked about this yesterday, how marathon runners or triathletes, triathlon is not really old enough yet, but let's let those people become real old. But anyway, marathon runners seem to have all heart problems. They use up too much lung chi, and eventually the heart and the blood vessels get weak and the heart gets weak. It's very common. So we should start looking at that as a humanity, to be healthy, to hang out in a very good state and take care of our chi. Okay. I have not gone through so much things yet. I have so much more for lungs chi. There's this whole aspect, for example, this is a fast one. I just wanted to show you. That's happening really fast. I want to show you the organ clock. So there is the organ clock. Hold on, let me see the lungs. 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. is lung chi, and 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. is large intestine. And with the lung chi, the circle starts actually at 3 a.m. till 5 a.m. So lung qi is responsible for sadness. Have you ever had nightmares that aren't much to do with fear, that are more a sensation of sadness? Have you ever looked at the time when you have those dreams? Yeah. Then also, another aspect within the whole metal aspect, a property of the lungs here is dispersion. It's the natural movement. So every element has a movement. And lung qi is dispersion as an opening. And so having having healthy lung qi is going to help you a lot with opening. What is the opposite of opening? Withdrawing. So when our lung qi is not very strong, we might have a very strong sense for withdrawing. What have we just learned about toxins before? You want to go in, it's not going inwards in the way we do that in Ren Shui, to go inwards. It's a sense of, I need to get out of here. I need to get into my walls. I need to build up walls. So openness hasn't got only to do with heart, qi or shen. It has also to do with the actual function of lung qi is opening, or is a bit responsible for the opening movement, dispersing movement also. A very common form of lung of cancer is lung cancer, because the opening, the dispersion is missing. For example, yeah. So pulling qi is very beneficial for lung qi, or kneading qi is very beneficial for lung qi. Okay, so let's do a little bit of pulling qi to the lungs, or some rowing qi to the lungs, or just connecting qi to the lungs for a few minutes, and it looks like I do healing the lungs number 3 next week. Because there's still so much more that we can look at in the lungs, and I don't know. I could say, well, we don't have enough time. I have to work on that pattern, because that's one pattern that I get triggered when Janse says, we don't have enough time, and I want to know more what he could talk about, one thing. And the thing is, I can keep running those web classes for the next 300 years, or, well, maybe, let's say 60. So, and I got enough time. So we'll see what happens next week. Maybe there you go. I need to anyway talk about the large intestine. So here we go. All sorted out. No more stress for me in the plan about teaching. Okay, so let's get into a really good posture and a really good state. Lifting up from Bai Hui, relaxing the body. Draw your vision back. Gently closing the eyes. Tongue tip is resting on the upper palate. Use your consciousness. You have been in the Chi field for 1.5 hours. Just relax on down. Lift Hui Yin to lower Dantian. Open from inside. Unify with the Chi field, with the universe. Come back into the Chi field and into the Chi field of your lungs. Go ahead and use your hands holding the Chi field of your lungs, and just start kneading the lungs. Lung Chi is streaming in actually universal Yuan Chi streaming into the Chi field of the lungs and strengthening the lungs. And also from the lungs and the lung Chi field. They are completely healthy by now. All the information that was sick has been cleared through the clarity of the healthy information. The possibilities of information that have not been present yet for healing, that are now activated, entered, forming a whole totality. And the lung Chi is just expanding, expanding. Feel how your hands are just getting pressed about from away from each other because it's opening and opening and opening. The quality of openness and opening is happening. All the sick Chi is dispersed from the lungs and from everything that is you. Whole universe is healthy. All of the organs are healthy. The organs that are controlled and the organs that are nourished by Lung Chi. Lung Chi has just about dispersed all the sick information, all the sick Chi, and Yuan Chi is filling it up with healthy new Chi and supporting the transformation. The overall quality of Lung Chi's transformation. Uplift your life, transform your life, change your life through learning and application. Learn to love yourself and love your life. Learn to love the transformability of your Shen and your life, your Chi, your body. Everything can heal, and that's why everything is healthy already. Feel the space of your Lung Chi field. Feel the openness and strength in there. Shining bright, open into the rest of the world and universe. Shen, Lung Chi is unified. Draw Chi back to Upper Dantian. Draw all the information back from today. Open out and draw Chi back to Lower Dantian. Draw the whole universal Chi there and nourish Chi in Lower Dantian. Chi is gathering in Lower Dantian. Nourishing all aspects of Lung Chi and all aspects of life altogether. And if you have gone into a really nice state, a deep state, a relaxed state, and transforming state, you might as well stay there. Keep your eyes closed as long as you like and do the head and face yourself whenever you're ready. Yuan Tong Ling Ming. Thank you.